Nairobi's streets pulse with unrest. It's 2026, and the city's youth are marching, not for tribe or party, but for a future they've been denied. They are Kenya's children, born into a world of innovation, but locked out of opportunity. Their anger is directed at a government that promised to uplift the hustler, but now seems to serve only the powerful. Fear hangs over the city. Parents watch protests on their phones, praying for their children's safety. This is not the Kenya that was promised. A nation of progress, now wounded by deep inequality. Youth unemployment is a crisis. Nearly 2/3 of young Kenyans have no formal job, and each year 1 million more join the search for work that isn't there. The government touts economic growth, but heavy taxes crush those with nothing left to give. Young people, armed with smartphones and courage, face riot police. Their movement, Occupy Parliament, is leaderless but united. They demand accountability, an end to corruption, and a government that listens to all, not just the elite. The government responds with denial and force, dismissing the protests and denying involvement in activist disappearances. But the people know the truth. They've seen the videos, heard the stories. This gap between government words and people's reality is where democracy falters. It's a dangerous space, filled with fear and hope that the world is watching. The youth are not just fighting for jobs, they're fighting for their lives and the soul of their country. Their courage is a challenge to the halls of power. The world must pay attention. Kenya's future is being decided in the streets. This movement was born online, not in political party halls. Kenya's Gen Z turned their phones into tools of revolution, organizing at lightning speed on TikTok, X and Discord. When the 2024 finance bill threatened to crush ordinary families, they didn't wait for politicians. They acted. Social media became their megaphone and shield, allowing real-time coordination and fact-checking. Old tribal divisions faded. Their identity was generational, not ethnic. Symbols like the Jolly Roger flag from One Piece became emblems of rebellion. The government tried to silence them, but encrypted apps and online support networks kept the movement alive. Crowdsourced funds paid for medical bills and legal aid. The state faced a decentralized, leaderless network it couldn't control. The protests against the finance bill grew massive, culminating in the storming of Parliament on June 25, 2024. The government's response was brutal, but the youth forced President Ruto to withdraw the bill. It was a stunning victory, proof that unity could force change. The digital spark had ignited a national fire. The movement's resilience became its greatest strength. Kenya's youth had found their voice, and the world was listening. The old order was shaken. A new era of protest had begun. Kenya is a nation divided by staggering inequality. A tiny elite live in luxury, while half the population struggles in poverty. Oxfam reports that 125 individuals hold more wealth than 43 million Kenyans combined. For most, daily life means hustling for survival, rent, school fees, medicine. Tax hikes to pay off national debt hit the poor hardest, while the rich exploit loopholes. The The system is rigged, fueling a cycle of poverty and resentment. Young people see their parents working harder for less, while the elite flaunt inherited wealth. The anger is about more than money. It's about dignity and being seen. When graduates are forced to sell goods on the street, the betrayal is clear. The government's hustler promises ring hollow. This injustice drives Kenya's youth into the streets. The government's answer to protest has been force, not dialogue. Peaceful demonstrations have met tear gas, water cannons, and live bullets. On June 25, 2024, over 20 young protesters were killed storming Parliament. Behind the scenes, activists face abductions and disappearances. 159 cases documented in 2024 alone. High Court rulings confirm state operatives are behind these acts. Officials deny everything, dismissing abductions as legal arrests. Such denial only deepens public outrage. Families live in anguish, activists in fear, yet repression has only hardened the movement's resolve. For every silenced voice, more rise up. The government's brutality is now a rallying cry. The fight is for justice, dignity, and the right to live without fear. As the government denies, opposition leaders step up. Martha Karua, a veteran politician, exposes state abuses with facts and legal arguments. She highlights illegal renditions and abductions, connecting them to a broader pattern of state lawlessness. Her voice gives weight to the protesters' demands for justice. Youth activists like Zaha Indimuli risk everything to share stories of the disappeared. Social media ensures victims are not forgotten. The contrast is stark government denial versus opposition evidence. This public debate is vital for democracy. The fight for justice is far from over. In crisis, Kenyans turn to the church for moral clarity. Religious leaders like Canon Evans Omolo condemn state violence and offer sanctuary to the fearful. The Church's voice rises above politics, framing the crisis as a battle for human dignity. Their calls for dialogue and justice embolden ordinary people. The Church has become the conscience of a nation in turmoil. Kenya's youth feel betrayed. The social contract is broken. They did everything right, but found no jobs, only debt and disappointment. 60% of Kenyans are under 30, yet opportunity is scarce. President Ruto's bottom-up promises have given way to crushing taxes and corruption scandals. Billions disappear, but there's no money for jobs or healthcare. Cynicism grows, faith in institutions crumbles. The protests are a desperate bid to reclaim hope. This is not just Kenya's story. Gen Z uprisings are erupting worldwide. A 2025 Ipsos report shows 68% globally believe the economy is rigged. Kenyan youth see themselves as part of a global fight for generational justice. Their struggle is personal, but they know they're not alone. The world is watching, and so are their peers. Protests have forced change, but real transformation needs more. The next step: register to vote and show up on election day. Disillusionment is understandable, but not voting is surrendering power. If the youth vote, they can reshape Kenya's future. Beyond voting, they must join parties, shape platforms, and run for office. New leaders must emerge from this movement. Change is slow and messy, but it's the only way forward. The protests opened a door. Now youth must walk through it. Their unity must become a political force. The future will be built, not given. Kenya's youth struggle is a beacon for Africa and the world. The continent watches. Will youth-led change succeed or be crushed? A victory could inspire movements for good governance across Africa. Failure would embolden autocrats and silence dissent. The world must support peaceful democratic change, not violent crackdowns. Kenyan youth demand more than elections. They want true accountability and justice. Their courage lights the way for a new kind of democracy. It's our collective responsibility to ensure that light endures. If you found this story important, subscribe for more updates on Kenya and global democracy movements.